Hello and welcome to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. In today's episode, the very rare Talbot Tagora. Welcome back, and if you're new to Quartzlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures like this one from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars and car brochures, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to today's episode, and yes, it says it's probably one of the rarest cars we've actually had on the channel, the Talbot Tagora. This is a UK brochure and a very early UK brochure, so let's dive straight into that now. I am actually trying to introduce all the cats. This one is Misty. She's Midnight's sister. If you saw Midnight a couple of weeks ago, it's really dependent on if the cats come up or not, sort of things. And here is Misty. She's a year and a half old, and kind of like, even though she's that same age as Midnight, she's definitely the baby of the family. She's still very kitten-like in her behaviour. So that is Misty. Thank you, Misty, for joining us today. Okay, and now, of course, she won't go and is biting the camera. Okay, thank you, Misty. Yeah, this is today's brochure. I'll straighten the camera up, I think. There we go, the Talbot Tagora. Only small brochure, this one, as you can see. Reminds me very much of 60s brochures, actually, where it folds out into a big style. Very simple, just the name, Talbot and Tagora. This is an unusual brochure, actually, in a few ways. The car itself is very unusual today, of course, but also the date. This is obviously the back. We've got the Talbot badge on there, and this is where your dealer stamp would normally go, but I'll just zoom in on the date. You can just see it at the bottom there, May 1981, and the interesting thing about that is May 1981 was the UK launch date for the Talbot Tagora, so a very early brochure, this one. And I say a rare one because really the Talbot Tagora was a bit of a sales disaster, really. I think they were expecting to sell somewhere around about 60,000 a year. I think in their entire production, I think they only sold 20,000. And it wasn't really a fault of the car, actually. It was just, I think, the wrong car at the wrong time. Talbot was at once a great car manufacturer. By this time, late 70s, early 80s, I didn't think it had much of a reputation by this time. Certainly not with executive cars, anyway, which is what this car was trying to be. Anyway, let's open the brochure up and talk a bit more about the car. And as we open it up into this sort of poster style, like I say, very much like a 60s brochure, we can get a few little glimpses of the car. And I don't think there was anything extremely bad about the car. It was just that it was a little bit bland. I think if it was going to be a sales success, it would have had to been something a little bit special, at least to look at. But, you know, in the UK, you're going to buy a Granada, aren't you? In France, or even in the UK, if you want something interesting, you can get something like a Citroen CX. There wasn't really any place for this car, really, but I do like it because I like unusual and different cars. Very rare car today. I think there was 0 on the UK roads recently, although I think one's come back on the road. I think there may be just one on the UK roads right now. It was launched in France, I do believe, in April 81, UK in May 81. And this brochure is also showing a couple of different engine choices and 3 different trim choices, which is interesting because it's showing the top of the range being the 2.6 SX, which is right, but I was under the impression that didn't come out in the UK till around about October. And like I say, we know this is a launch May 81 brochure, so I'm not sure you could actually get the top of the range one at this time. Anyway, let's zoom in on some of the images and some of the text. Tagora, luxury and performance redefined. It says just one glance at the Talbot Tagora will convince you that it's much more than a standard executive saloon. Its modern low profile, wind resistant aerodynamic shape, expansive glass surfaces and sweeping bonnet combine to make it a car of superb style and elegance. The new Talbot Tagora bridges the vital gap between luxury and performance. It incorporates the spaciousness and refinements of a luxury saloon, yet still retains all the power, speed and road capabilities associated with a high performance car. It goes on to tell us the interior of the Talbot Tagora is luxuriously appointed. The seats are the result of extensive research and are contoured to provide perfect lumbar support and comfort. With the Talbot Tagora, the executive motor car achieves totally new dimensions. Tagora will be available in 3 different versions, each offering a choice of transmission and each one based on the same proven Talbot design. It goes on to tell us the Talbot Tagora GL and GLS, and that confirms the other model here, and in the latter half of 81, the most luxurious model in the range, the SX, Talbot Tagora luxury and performance redefined. And yeah, I don't actually read these brochures until I'm on screen, because I think it works better if I'm surprised as much as you. But like I say, SX came later. It does actually confirm the SX came in the latter half in 81, and I think it was October 81 actually when the SX top of the range model came in. And here is that design. Like I say, it's a little bit bland, isn't it? The actual exterior was actually designed in the UK by Roy Axe. The part I do like about it, I do like these headlights, these big headlights on there, taking up a large proportion of that front end from that sweeping block bonnet. I do like that, but anything other than that is a very bland looking car. I'm sure that did affect sales. Looks like this particular model will be a 2.2. Yes indeed, a large 2.2 litre badge on the side. Looks like just steel wheels, no, and I think the top of the range model that hasn't come out yet, that did get alloys. Also an image of the rear, again just looks like steel wheels on there. Badging on this one is the GLS, so that would have been the highest one you could have got at launch, although like I said, the SX comes later in the year and as was a lot higher specs with alloy wheels, etc. You also can see on this GLS version, it's got that sort of black rubbing strip going down there and unusual caps in the centre of the wheels. So this would have been your base model, no rubbing strips down the side there. So this is your base Tagora GL. So your base model is the GL. Technically the new Talbot Tagora is highly innovative. This makes for exceptional all-round performance. The Talbot Tagora GL is equipped with a 4-cylinder overhead camshaft 2155cc engine developing 113 bhp at 5,400 rpm. The carburetor is twin choke, the choke is automatic, the ignition electronic, and the cooling is provided by a closed circuit system with expansion box. Tagora GL has a 4-speed gearbox with the option of a 5-speed version. So 4-speed on an executive car, I'm not too sure about that. I guess it is the early 80s, but even so, I think it should be a 5-speed on all of them. The braking system is everything you would expect from a car with its level of performance. The dual braking circuit is servo assisted with front disc brakes and self-adjusting drums, and a braking compensation system acting in accordance with the load carried regulates the braking pressure applied on the rear brakes, thereby allowing optimum braking distances. But still, rear drums, I'm surprised by that. But the pleasure really starts when you take the Tagora on the road. The gear change, powerful engine and surging acceleration combine to give a feeling of unbridled freedom. Quite wordy really, isn't it? It goes on to say, and day-long driving comfort for 5 adults is guaranteed thanks to the smooth ride offered by the all-round independent suspension and the legroom provided in both front and rear compartments. The new Tagora excels in all the refined features you would naturally expect in a new generation luxury high-performance executive saloon. The seats are deeply contoured, totally supportive, and are full-faced with cloth upholstery. The head restraints are padded and the front seats are adjustable and fully recline. The controls on the fascia panel are perfectly positioned and the instruments immediately visible. For the driver passenger protection, Tagora more than meets the required passive safety standards. The entire passenger compartment has been thoroughly researched and impact tested to ensure its integrity. The dashboard is padded, the steering system is safety jointed, and all Tagoras have laminated windscreens. In short, the new Tagora has all the style, comfort and passenger safety that you could wish for. An image of the interior for the GL. Nice looking seats. I quite like the colour combination on the seats and dash. And then we've got various different images starting on the left hand side, that illuminated glove box, showing a bit of the ventilation on that door card and this sort of elasticated driver's map pocket. And looking at these things, I don't know if they are necessarily the GL model actually. They seem a little bit random, but it could well be the GL. We've got this little push button radio at this unusual angle, and then the dash. Well, I actually quite like the dash, but then again I really like French cars, and this reminds me very much of those French cars. We've got this single steering wheel arm on there to make it easy to see the dash. I like how clear the dashboard is, and lots of easy, you certainly easily see those dials on there. I also like the little Talbot badge there in the middle. Quite an unusual dash, but I do quite like it. I think this is kind of like where it does confirm that this is the base GL model. You can see instead of a rev counter we've got a clock there. And I think where that Talbot little blanking type looking thing there, that little Talbot badge, I think that was actually the digital clock on the next model up. Now I'm presuming this is the GLS interior, although it doesn't really confirm that. Really gives you a good idea of how slopey that little area is there. And then as we go down, I'm presuming this is telling us it's got central locking, central door locking, tinted electric front windows. There. All the dials. This is actually referring to this as a trip readiness tester. Power steering and an electric digital clock. So then it's going to start talking about the GLS. The GLS is unquestionably a car for the man who recognises the demands, that the added measure of style and versatility. No mention of a woman there. It is equipped with the same proven 2.2 litre engine as the GL, but it has the added advantage of a 5-speed gearbox fitted as standard and with automatic transmission as an option. At no point is overall efficiency and fuel economy sacrificed for speed and performance. For this reason, the gear ratios on the Tagora GLS are perfectly spaced, thus obtaining the finest compromise between performance and fuel efficiency. The 5-speed gearbox also affords increased comfort for long distance driving because it significantly reduces noise levels. The GLS has power assisted steering fitted as standard, which makes for effortless parking, easy manoeuvrability and accurate responsiveness, particularly at low speeds. Indeed, you'll find that throughout the new Tagora is an exceptional example of positive and efficient engineering. The interior of the new GLS is a superb blend of comfort and refinement. The lumbar supportive seats are richly upholstered in luxurious velour, oh nice, and a deep piled carpet further enhances the feeling of quality and luxury. So yeah, I do think they are the GLS's velour seats, I'm going to say. A sophisticated feature is the trip readiness tester located on the fascia. This enables certain aspects of the vehicle to be checked even before setting off. As soon as the ignition is switched on, 7 warning lights on the fascia instantly light up. Take the Tagora for a test drive, put it through its paces. You'll find evidence throughout of a thoughtful and considered approach towards overall design. Fold the brochure back again and then we see the specification page on the back there, so let's zoom in on that now. So there we go, as we can see we've now got the 3 models there, the GL and GLS, which you kind of like talked about in detail, and then the SX, which presumably just wasn't ready at launch in the UK. The one model shown there, the GL and GLS, came with a 2155cc 4 inline engine. The SX actually had a different engine, a 2664cc V6, so a bit more executive-like, so that's a little bit more of an interesting model, that one. As we move down, we can see that base model could get either a 4-speed or optional 5-speed. The centre model there came standard with the 5-speed, optional 3-speed auto, and the same with that top of the range model. Steering there is rack and pinion, power steering on the top 2 models. And then we can see a little bit look at the suspension there, independent strut and coil springs, and independent semi-trailing arms with coil springs at the rear. Brakes, disc brakes on the front, looks like they were ventilated for the top of the range model, and then drums for the rears, surprising for those smaller 2 models or lower spec 2 models. We did get disc all round on the top of the range though, servo assisted. We've also got some dimensions there, which is kind of like not great to show on camera, so we'll move down. The capacitors, tyres, looks like the top of the range one had a slightly different wheel by the looks of it. And the equipment levels, looks like surprising that top of the range one, even at this early time, still had the equipment sorted out. It's telling us that we get a trip computer on that top of the range one, so surprising. It must have been, I don't know what the delay was with the top of the range version. And then this trip readiness test it told us about on the top 2 models. Further equipment levels, I'm not going to go through them all, but base model on the left, centre model on that top of the range one at the right hand side there. The circle, of course, meaning that's the equipment that it got on that model. And then the general equipment, so laminated windscreen on all the models, tinted and laminated on the top 2 models. But yeah, like I say, it looks like they got the equipment levels sorted out at this time. It's just like I say, you couldn't get that top of the range at this early time. And as we move down, we can see those 5 light alloy wheels on the top of the range. Interesting 5, isn't it? Quite often they put on 4 alloy wheels, and then you looked in the boot, there was an old steel wheel, but 5 alloy wheels equipped. Top of the range, looks like you could get as an option on that middle model. Talking about velour seating, I can't see any mention of leather, and like I said, this is a executive model. You think more of leather, don't you? But I must admit I do prefer velour anyway, but like I say, unusual that isn't at least an option. Carpeting in the boot, only on the top of the range model, again a little bit unusual. And then right at the bottom there, those are the economy figures. Sadly it doesn't show us any performance figures, but you can see there by the economy figures it wasn't exactly a fuel efficient vehicle. So there we got the Talbot Tagora, an interesting car, but unfortunately a sales marketing flop really. I think mainly because it was such a bland looking vehicle and kind of like getting into the executive market where there wasn't really a place for it. Like I say, if you wanted anything a little bit different, you'd probably go for a CX or maybe even something like a Peugeot 505 if you wanted something French. But I guess most people in the UK would have just plumped for a Granada really, wouldn't they? I'd like to have met the people that actually bought those and the reasoning for buying them. I like these because they're unusual and rare, although I can't really remember seeing any in the day. If you've got any memories of these, please do jot them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching today. Please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.